Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden will face off head-to-head in the 11th Democratic debate. While the original DNC plan called for 12 debates for the 2020 Democratic primary, the 11th debate could very well end up being the last, and the stakes couldn't be lower. No matter who wins this debate, the result will probably not determine who becomes the Democratic nominee to face off against Donald Trump in the 2020 general election. Detracting even further from the excitement of this upcoming debate are several changes made to the format of the debate. Due to concerns about the coronavirus, the debate has been moved from Phoenix, Arizona to Washington, D.C., where there will be no live audience, and the post-debate spin room interviews are cancelled. The illness is also responsible for the current lineup of moderators, as Jorge Ramos may have been exposed. In his place, Univision is sending Ilya Calderon, who will join CNN's Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. Prior to the most recent changes, CNN had even planned on making this a seated town hall-style debate, a format allegedly preferred by the Biden camp, and objected to by Sanders' campaign. With no audience though, I don't see how a town hall is even possible. I guess they could still ask questions from Twitter and give Joe a chair.
What do you mean, shut up?
Seated or not, the debate is still worth watching for several reasons. For one thing, it's one of Sanders' last chances to inspire Democratic voters about his policy ideas, an important step in getting them into the party platform. Ideas like Medicare for All, the Green New Deal, a federal jobs guarantee, and tuition-free public college are popular with a large portion of Democratic voters, but have yet to be embraced by Joe Biden. As for Biden, the debate provides the opportunity to win over younger, more progressive voters and tamper concerns about his abilities. While Joe has managed to regain his status as frontrunner in this race, in part due to pre-Super Tuesday dropouts and endorsements by Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, and favorable media coverage after his victory in South Carolina, Biden must combat the notion that he's essentially winning by default. There are still widespread worries that his best days are behind him. Even relatively friendly outlets are describing Biden as somewhat diminished. For instance, here's what the New York Times wrote about Biden's upcoming debate performance. Mr. Biden, often uneven in these debate settings, must navigate far more speaking time as he tries to appear capable of uniting the country and leading it through a crisis. Voters concerned about Biden's capacity to take on Donald Trump and the role of the President of the United States will likely watch the debate with this question in mind: does he have what it takes? Having garnered a considerable lead in delegates and a commanding lead in the nationwide polling, Joe Biden's fate as the Democratic nominee for the general election is all but secured. It should also be pointed out that Biden's status as frontrunner is not new or particularly surprising or a serious comeback, as it has often been described in the mainstream press with dramatic descriptions such as this one from Politico. The debate 4 days before the South Carolina primary that transformed Biden's candidacy from hospice patient to juggernaut. The fact is, Biden was in first place throughout most of the primary election. The lowest he sunk down to was second place. He lost ground nationwide after losing in the first 3 states, as was expected by everyone who follows American politics closely. His losses, at least in Iowa and New Hampshire, were predictable based on the polls for months in advance. Biden's debate performances leading up to South Carolina didn't dramatically change his fate there either. Polling showed him leading in the state throughout the entire race. The only thing surprising about Biden's victory there was that he won by more than expected. But the result was almost certainly bolstered not just by debate performances, but also by the late endorsement of South Carolina's influential congressman, Jim Clyburn, who is the highest-ranking black member of Congress. Clyburn's endorsement was timed well for Biden, but it was not itself any more surprising than AOC's endorsement of Bernie Sanders. Favorable coverage of Biden's South Carolina victory, however, did shift Biden's fate going forward. This includes Andrew Yang's description of Joe as the new comeback kid. Generally intended and taken as a compliment for Biden, I think, despite the fact that it compares him to Bill Clinton, which I personally would always take as an over-the-line insult. At any rate, propelled by positive coverage after winning 1 out of the first 4 states, Biden was beginning to become competitive with Sanders in many of the Super Tuesday states, when Bernie was previously expected to have a sweeping victory. In a last-minute attempt to bolster Biden's ability to beat out Bernie, his best competitors for the moderate lane, Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, dropped out and endorsed him. as did Beto O'Rourke. On Super Tuesday, it was clear that Sanders was in serious trouble when he lost states like Massachusetts and Minnesota to Biden. Joe winning Michigan the following week was pretty much the final nail in the coffin. Now Biden leads Bernie 889 delegates to 735. In terms of popular vote, he's secured about 38% compared to 30% secured by Sanders. RCP's Democratic primary polls show Biden leading by a full 19 points over Sanders, with an overall RCP average of 54%. So barring an extraordinary display of incompetence on the part of Joe Biden, this debate will very likely do nothing to change the now nearly inevitable outcome of the primary race. Some in the mainstream media seem to expect to see Sanders using this debate as a last-ditch attempt to magically reverse course and win the Democratic primary. Here's one prediction again from Politico. The Sanders campaign, among other Biden detractors, view the debate as a chance for him to fall flat on his face, reviving questions about the durability of his campaign, just as Biden is poised to break the race wide open with a 4-state sweep in the March 17 primaries. I'm not sure that Sanders has such lofty expectations. Given the current standings, Biden's face fall would have to be pretty extreme to give Sanders anything close to a chance of winning the nomination at this point. What is certain is that this will be the first, if not the last, opportunity for Biden and Sanders to go mano-a-mano on the issues. In a sense, this is good for both candidates. In the past, Biden's complained about the crowded multi-candidate debates, arguing they're not debates, they're 1-minute assertions. The one-on-one format is far more likely to allow for extended conversations about the issues. That's apparently what Biden's wanted, and it's certainly what's good for Bernie's camp too. While Sanders is not likely to personally secure the nomination, he can have a kind of win in the Democratic primary by putting his ideas front and center. Sanders was able to accomplish this back in 2016. His campaign had pushed for a $15 minimum wage, criminal justice reform, a pathway to legalization, carbon pricing, Federal Reserve reform, closing the revolving door, Wall Street reform, postal service banking services, abolishing capital punishment, and an expansion of the earned income tax credit. All of these policies made it into the 2016 party platform. His losses in that platform include his stances on Israeli settlements, fracking, and the TPP. Overall, though, his campaign had an immense effect. Beyond the platform, Sanders' 2016 campaign and his work since also popularized ideas that became extremely common in the 2020 Democratic primary. His grassroots fundraising model was adopted by many of his rival candidates. His Medicare for All plan became the starting point of all healthcare conversations, accepted by some, rejected by others, and by still others accepted in name only. The Green New Deal, a federal jobs guarantee, and tuition-free college also spurred critical conversations about the environment, the working class, and education. So entering the 11th Democratic debate, Sanders' goal is pretty clear. With little opportunity to make himself the next president of the United States, he can do the next best thing: influence the party platform and inspire the progressive grassroots to remain vigilant and politically active, so that if Biden does win the presidency, his administration treats the left as a force to be reckoned with. Reconciliation is a goal Sanders and Biden actually share. While Biden has edged Sanders out by appealing to older, more moderate voters, he can only defeat Trump with an energized, unified Democratic Party. Throwing the left a few bones should be expected, as unity can only come through compromise. The tricky bit for Biden is navigating just how much to give in to progressives without sacrificing the interests of the voters and Democratic establishment who gave him his lead in the first place. Ingratiating himself to Sanders' base is also a balancing act for Biden when it comes to tone. An overly aggressive debate performance will prevent him from looking like a gracious winner, but moments of passion and aggression allow him to demonstrate that he's got the debate chops to take on Donald Trump. This should be of concern to Democratic voters. While Biden had relatively strong debate performances in the most recent Democratic debates in Nevada and South Carolina, his overall poise throughout the first 8 debates left much to be desired. He frequently stumbled on his own words, he made embarrassing mistakes, like forgetting Senator Kamala Harris exists while sharing the stage with her.
The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate.
No, my point is that's not true. The other one is here.
First, after.
He was also frequently caught off guard. Again, taking Harris as an example, he seemed shocked when she brought up his history on busing.
There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class
to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Biden is not likely to have to counter aggressive attacks from Bernie this time around. Sanders' focus is probably going to be less about Joe's voting record and personal issues, and far more about how he plans on dealing with serious issues facing the American people. Biden will have done well if he can passionately speak on these issues and how he plans on solving them. He can also show his ability to get aggressive by specifically calling out Donald Trump and criticizing his administration. Strategically, he'd also be wise to save a particularly devastating line of argument or two for his debates against Trump. It's always most effective to surprise your debate opponents. Trump himself is likely saving a few tricks up his sleeve to take down Biden, so Joe should do the same. Also at issue with Biden proving that he can beat Trump is the old debate over the debate format. It was reported that the dispute with Sanders' campaign over the debate format came as Democrats sympathetic to Biden started privately raising concerns that Biden didn't have the physical or mental stamina to face Sanders on stage. Rumors circulated that the Democratic National Committee was under pressure to cancel the debate, which both the DNC and Biden's campaign denied. Regardless of whether Biden wanted to cancel the debate or not, or whether he pushed for a town hall style debate or not, there clearly is a perception out there that Biden doesn't have the same level of energy as does Bernie Sanders. He's faced criticism for doing 7-minute speeches at campaign events while Bernie's done hour-long performances at back-to-back rallies. But at this point, Biden's main concern shouldn't be Bernie, it should be Trump. And this issue of stamina is precisely something Trump hit Clinton with in 2016.
She doesn't have the stamina. She doesn't have the stamina. I don't believe she does have the stamina. You need tremendous stamina. I don't believe that Hillary has the stamina.
At the time, Hillary Clinton was a 68-year-old woman, a year younger than Trump. As a 77-year-old man who has essentially come out of retirement to run for president, and whose vitality is apparently worrying his own allies, Biden is almost certainly going to face the same criticisms from the president in the general election.
Stamina.
So, in this debate, he needs to project a youthful vigor. Stay sharp, awake, and if CNN provides a chair, don't sit down. Most essential for both Sanders and Biden, though, is the issue of Democratic unity. As they clash over policy disagreements, they also must demonstrate how both factions of the party can work together. Biden needs to prove that he can stand strong against Trump, win over independents, and satisfy the grassroots of the party. Bernie needs to prove that he can simultaneously lead progressives to aid Biden in ousting Trump and advocate for his social democratic policy agenda. In 2016, he secured a number of victories in the party platform. Whether he'll accomplish this again for 2020 is still an open question. Does he have what it takes?
Stamina.
She doesn't have the stamina.